Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about some new features available on Windows Server 2012. Windows Server is a broad, scalable and elastic server platform that gives organization the flexibility to build and deploy applications and websites on the premises, in the cloud or in the hybrid environment using a consistent set of tools in a framework. So let's get into it. Windows Server 2012, coded name Windows Server 8, is a sixth release of Windows Server. It is a server version of Windows 8 operating system. Windows Server 2012 has no support for the Platinum-based computers. The successor of Windows Server 2012, called Windows Server 2012 R2, was released along with the Windows 8.1 back in October 2013. This is the only server that supports only 64-bit of processor. Now we have the basic understanding what is all about Windows Server 2012. Now we are going to understand the basic system hardware requirement in order to run Windows Server 2012. The minimum processor which is required in order to run Windows Server 2012 is 1.4 GHz. As I already mentioned, this is the only server operating system that works only on 64-bit of processor. So if you have a computer which is 3 or 4 years old, that will pretty much do the job in order to run the Windows Server 2012. And it's been decades that we have seen the processor of 32-bit. The next thing which is required is the memory. So the minimum memory which is required in order to install Windows Server 2012 is 512 MB and a 32 gigs of free space. So we are done with the minimum hardware requirement to run Windows Server 2012. But what about the software? How are we going to get this software to install and use the Microsoft Windows Server operating system? So the nice part with the Microsoft is they do provide 180 days of Windows 2012 Server operating system. These are the fully functional trial. Active Directory works, Group Policy works, VPN works. It's just limited to 180 days of usage. I will also leave the link below so you can download the server operating system from the official website, and I'm also going to show you how this will going to work. So this is the link, so let's click into it. So it will redirect you to the Microsoft official website where you can download the 180 days of trial. So you need to go through the registration phase. Just click here and register. And you need to fill up the first name, last name, company name and other details, and you're good to go. It will give you a link to download it. So now we're going to talk about the version of the server operating system. Basically, it comes with 4 different versions: foundation version, essential version, standard version and data center version. If you see carefully, the foundation version and essential version has some limitations. So these two versions are limited for 15 and 25 users, wherein the standard version and data center versions are unlimited. In terms of the processor chip limit, the foundation version is limited for 1 chip, wherein essential is for 2 chip and standard and data center is for 64 chip. Now the next big thing which we are going to talk about is the Hyper-V, which is the virtualization software for Microsoft Server. So if you are going for the foundation version or essential version, you will not get the Hyper-V feature that you can use it, wherein in standard and data center version do have the functionalities. The biggest thing which also comes here is the server mode, the server core mode. So the foundation version and the essential version doesn't have the server core mode. Moreover, it will not going to receive any Windows Server update service, as you can see here. So think precisely before you are about to purchase any version of the operating system. Make sure once you purchase the foundation version, you will be bound to use for 15 user, wherein essential will be 25 user. Here is some new features available on Windows Server 2012. Server 2012 interface, server core, storage space, resilient file system or REFS, SMB 3.0, data deduplication, self-healing NTFS. We will be going through all of these topics one after another deeply manner. Windows Server 2008 introduced the server core interface. If the administrator chose to install server core, the server would run only the command prompt and would only able to display the simplest graphical interface, just like a notepad. The problem was the administrator has to choose at the time of installation whether he wants to use the server core mode or the graphical user interface. And it cannot be changed later on unless the whole system was reinstalled. Unlike the Windows 2008, Windows Server 2012 allow you to switch between the core and the full interface at any time. Let me go ahead and show you how. So we are going to open our server manager and click on remove roles and features. We're going to click on next and select this server and click on next. From here we'll scroll down and select the user interface and infrastructure and click on next again. That's it. It's very easy to switch from server core to graphical user interface and to graphical user interface to server core. So the next feature which we are going to talk about is the server core. Microsoft has improved the server core. With Windows Server 2012, Microsoft has increased the number of roles that are supported by the server core. Out of the 19 roles in Windows Server 2012, 12 of these roles are available in server core. Previously, only 9 were available in Windows Server 2008 and 10 roles in Windows Server 2008 R2. In Windows Server 2012, Server Core also includes the support for SQL Server. Previously, you would not be able to run SQL Server on Server Core mode. As shown, these roles are not supported by Server Core. The next feature that I will be looking at is the storage space. This is available in Windows Server and Windows 8. This feature allows you to combine multi-hard disks together to form one storage space. This can be internal or external. For example, you could combine internal hard disk and hard disk connected by a USB. Once you have a storage space configured, you are free to divide the area in separated drives, just like a physical hard disk. This newly allocated space will appear in the operating system as a drive and can be assigned a drive letter. Storage space also supports redundancy. This means that if a hard drive disk fails or disconnected, you will not lose any of the data and your data is still available. Storage space also supports the thin provisioning. This means that space of one drive is required when it's needed. The next new feature is the resilient file system or REFS. This is referred to as a next generation file system with the aim to replace NTFS. This helped reduce the chance of corruption in metadata. The metadata is the information that Windows uses to locate your data on the hard disks. The new approach allows REFS to be self-healing. Self-healing is that a problem are encountered on the hard disk, they can be fixed often without having to unmount the drive. REFS reduces the downtime by reducing the number of reboot required to fix the hard disk problem. There are some limitations if you decide or if you choose to use REFS. REFS do not support the following. It does not support booting, so you cannot use it for the system drive. That means you can only be able to use for the data drive. Second, it does not support software disk quotas. Third, it does not support EFC encryption and compression. Fourth and lastly, since this is a new technology, it will only work with Windows 8 and above and Windows Server 2012. The next feature which we will looking at is the SMB Server Message Block 3.0. It is a protocol that allows you to copy, paste and move file between the computers and servers within the Windows world. SMB 3.0, the reason it's so good, it increased the file transfer rate between the computer and server 10 to 30 times faster than the old SMB1 that was available in Windows XP. The only thing you need to remember that it will only work with Windows Server 2012 and Windows 8 and above. In Windows 7 we had SMB 2.0, which was using the transfer rate. The next and the last feature which we are going to talk about is the data deduplication. Data deduplication has been around a while now, but this is a great feature of Windows Server 2012 series. What data deduplication does is, you know how a lot of people basically have the exact same files that they are storing, but it takes up the same amount of space. If you have one person with an iTunes directory that essentially has the exact same files as somebody else with an iTunes directories, if both those people copy their iTunes directories on a server, it's going to take a huge amount of space because you have two entire separate iTunes directories, although they are basically the same. Let's take an example. If a user A has 200 songs and user B has 200 songs and 150 of the songs are exactly the same, only 50 are different. When normally before data deduplication, that means you would have a folder with all 200 songs and you have another folder with 200 songs, and that would take up a lot of space on your hard drive. Data deduplication is really cool in server. Looks and goes, okay, these two files are identical, so I will only create one copy of the file and just link to both the folders to make it look like there are two copies. So basically, if we have two people and they have two iTunes directories, now instead of having 400 songs individually stored in a folder, you may be able to download it being only 250. Reason, it's because deduplicates the duplicate file. If the server sees that there are duplicate files, it simply deletes one of them. Both the people have a pointer with one file that they have. So the data deduplication is absolutely great. So this is all about the Windows Server 2012 and some new features. If you like my video, don't forget to like, subscribe and comment. And if you want to know more about Windows Server 2012, stay tuned with Matrix Data Pro.